Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of knowing for several years now. This man is a creator, he's an author, he's a husband, he's a man of God, and just a good friend, just a good all-around good brother. And he's taking some time out of his schedule to be with us this evening to share a little bit of his journey, to impart some knowledge into us and some experiences that he's had that we hope collectively that will empower, encourage, inspire you when you find yourself faced with challenging and difficult times and wondering, how am I going to get through those situations? He's going to share a little bit about his journey to let you know that it's not the end of your story. It's not the end of how everything is going to turn out just because you're going through some difficult times. So without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Mr. Dameon Runnels. Dameon, thank you,
Hey,
my brother, for being on the show.
thank you for having me, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into the nuts and bolts of our conversation today, I do want to give you an opportunity to just share a little bit about yourself. You know, who you are, where you're from, what you
Yeah.
do. Just give them a little taste of who Damien is.
Sure. Once again, my name is Dameon Runnels. I currently serve as the art director at Enlight for Living Ministries. Um, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I love building people. So that is one of the highlights of my line of work that I've been able to participate in. Just the opportunity to help people go from one place to another place, and just to be a part of that journey and the system in that.
Love that, love that. And again, that's good work, and just what you do. That's a gift. That's a gift from God, and I
Yeah,
love the fact that you are tapping into that gift, not just for the personal gains of making a living. Not like there's nothing wrong with that. You're tapping into those skills on a multitude of levels, and as you said, just trying to help build people, trying to take
yeah,
them from one level to the next level, and we need more of that. And so
yeah,
I'm thankful that God has put that gift in you to let you do just that. And we're gonna delve into that a little bit more and find out how that's played out for you, and how God is using that gift for you to be a blessing to other people, as well as experiencing the blessings for yourself along the way. So with
yeah.
that said, with any journey that we go through, you can't really speak to the whole scope of that journey without starting from the beginnings. And so with our conversation today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take it back to the beginning. So if you would, I'd like for you to sort of reflect back, if you would, about your childhood. Tell us, what was it like for you growing up? Any fond memories that you have, as well as if there was any challenges that you had to deal with along the way. Kind of give everybody a backdrop of what coming up for you was like.
Okay. Um, yeah, this is going back. I'm from a small town in Texas called Silsby, Texas. Um, I'm one of two brothers. Um, was raised in a loving home. I've listened to some of the other people that you've had on your podcast, and I've seen that some of them didn't have um, great relationships with their parents, and my heart goes out to them because my relationships with my parents was very strong. My we I grew up in church. Both mom and dad were very, very present in my life, and got on my behind when I needed it. and But yeah, and we also have a big family. It was one of my fondest memories. You always talk about fondest memories. One of my fondest memories was Sunday dinner. My
Mm.
goodness, man! One of my aunts, I don't know how she did it to this day, man. But and she passed away like almost 20 years ago, so it's been a long time. But I know growing up, one of the things that the older I got, I wondered, how did she do this? She would have breakfast ready, and everybody would come over to her house for breakfast. And I mean, she had it all laid out. I mean, eggs, bacon, sausage and bacon, right?
Hmm.
Have it all laid out. And and this is before church. Then we would go to church. And she's at church too now. Then we come back from church, and she got the whole spread for dinner. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, greens, the whole nine. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was just that was one of the things that I was so fond of, and not just the food, but also having um, growing up and always having my entire family. Like over my aunt's house, we're talking about for breakfast and for lunch, 15. I mean, breakfast and dinner, you're talking about 15 people at least. You
Mm.
know, so just hanging out, eating, watching TV, then eating some more, going out and playing, riding bikes. I mean, that was us growing up. But like I said, we really had a real strong Christian upbringing in our family. Um, the church that we attended is over 100 years old, and it's the
Mm.
oldest church in our county, right? Little Hardin County, Southeast Texas, and with it even to show how old it is, it even has a historical marker in front of the church.
Wow.
There's an actual historical marker in front of the church. But that's the church that we grew up in, and my family, um, from my grandmother to her mother, were part of the early members of that church.
Mm-hmm.
And to take that even further, even when my grandmother was a small child, there was another church deep off in the woods. I mean, real deep off in the woods, in a little black settlement called Spring Hill. I mean, like, to get there, you get off a small road and go down two dirt roads, and then you're in that settlement, right? So Spring Hill, a lot of the people, that church is even older than ours. And that church, a lot of the people from that church winded up coming to the church that I grew up in. So even to this day, we have an annual homecoming to where we go to that church back off in the woods. I mean, show you how country it is. When it was COVID, we had church in a tent. You know what I'm saying? So, and it was just good times. And that homecoming this past year, we just celebrated 93 years. That's how long that
Wow.
homecoming has been going on. So, and even at that church, our family members I mean, there's a lineage of our family members that's buried in the graveyard behind that church.
Mm.
And, it's just growing up, you don't realize how much of a blessing that is. But as you get older, the magnitude of that blessing is just, I don't know, sometimes it can bring you to tears when you think about it, because everybody doesn't have that.
Right.
And, and when you realize that, how rare, and I'm gonna say, I don't know exactly how rare that is, but at least in my experience, I don't run across a lot of people with that. Um, so, to have something like that, it just makes you appreciate it that much more. So, I mean, that's my family, and that's how I grew up. And when we talk about fond memories, those were fond memories. Even going to that church, I remember when Spring Hill when we didn't have air conditioning in the church. So I
Mm.
remember that growing up, it wasn't no air conditioning, none of that stuff. You roll the windows up. I mean, it's not like the air conditioner was out. They didn't have none.
Right.
It was
Right.
none. And roll those windows up, had them fans going. Man, you had church, man, and that's how it was, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I just love the whole family aspect that you spoke to, from in the home to in the church, the
yep.
community, growing up in a small town. Anytime I've talked to people who've been born and raised in small towns, oftentimes they speak of that type of that closeness. Yeah, everybody knows everybody kind of thing,
Yep.
and and I totally identify when you spoke about the Sunday dinners, you think about a movie like Soul Food,
Yeah.
that's a real for people who've seen that movie, that was a kind of a regular thing. I know in my house, I mean, it wasn't nothing for us to have Sunday dinners regularly in the dining
Hmm.
room, and the meals mirrored what you might see on an average person's Thanksgiving dinner or
Yes.
Christmas dinner.
Yes.
That was like that was like Sunday dinner. The only
Yeah.
difference
That,
was you might
that
throw a
was Sunday
turkey in, or
fun ass.
you threw a right. You didn't have to wait for the holiday to experience
Yep.
that moment. And I think it was
Yep.
special to have that. Again, little things like that you don't think about at the time, but
Yeah.
as you get older, you just think about how many families don't eat together anymore.
Oh man.
I mean, we've even been bad about that. If I'm being transparent, like food is ready, everybody fixes their plate, and then they go to their separate corners. So
Yeah.
it may be,
Yes.
wife goes in the bedroom, kid goes in the living room, I
Yeah.
go to the man cave, whatever. We're all
Yeah.
eating, but we're not always necessarily in the same place all the time. Versus that used to be a thing. You didn't. That wasn't even a normal practice to not eat together.
Oh yeah.
At the
Yeah.
table. You
Oh yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And like you said, the going outside and playing, like I said, the community of church and things of that nature. So that's wonderful, man. And if I'm remembering correctly, was it a year or two ago that your parents would they celebrate like 50-year anniversary or something like
Oh
that?
yeah,
Or
man. Yeah, my parents last year, June 10th, man, they celebrated 50 years. And man, it was a heck of an event. It was me and my brother and my cousins and and my wife, man, my wife really played a real crucial role in helping us pull that thing off, man, and of course his wife too. But it was a family thing, man. It was everybody contributed. Um, Everybody wanted to see them have a good time, and it was. I mean, it was a black tie event. It was nice. It was elegant, but everybody still partied and they renewed their vows, and um, then we got on the dance floor, and it was good, man. I,
that's
I will say,
awesome.
my brother and I, we were. There was a point in time in during that celebration where we just kind of took stock of not just our parents, right? And this is the part that we weren't, it wasn't on our radar, but it really hit us like, we were having um, that party for them, right? We had that event for them. But once everybody was having fun and having a good time, it wasn't just them. It was people. It was the people that they knew and the people that they grew up with and the people that loved them and all the other families and couples that was around their age and how they wanted to celebrate that time with them. And those are the things that, yeah, of course, that their friends want to come and their friends want to celebrate it, but it's just that feeling of, man, I knew that they were going to come and celebrate with them, but to see how much of a good time that they're all having together, it was just man, it was just a blessing to see, especially when they was doing the what was it? I forgot what it was. It was one of those popular dances that that we do
Hmm.
on the dance floor. I can't remember because I was about to say keep it shuffle, but no, that crowd goes electric slide. That's what it was. So electric slide. So when they got on there and did the electric slide, I mean, just to see all of those couples that had been married also for 30 years, 35 years, 20 years, to see all of them have fun. And then me and my wife, we got out there and me and my wife, we've been married for over 20 years. And so it was just a moment, and it was a great time. But moments like that, I didn't see those coming. And those little moments were bigger blessings than us putting it on for her, or for
Right.
her, for my parents, for her. her and my dad, from my mom and my dad. It was just experiencing those were just, I mean, those were just didn't see it coming, but man, I loved it.
Man, that's I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, and it's just a beautiful sight to see, like you said, when you think about just the state of how marriages are going in these days
Yeah.
and times. They happen today and they're over tomorrow. And the fact that you have parents that made it through 50 years together. And I'm
Yes.
sure, there were days when you had the rough patches and things like that, but they clearly hung in. They said, you know what,
Yes.
the good, for the good days and for the not so good days,
Yeah.
we are in this for the long haul. And
Yep.
so to see that, and then, like you said, to come together in an event to celebrate them, but then to also see the people who came to celebrate them, they
With
also
them.
have longevity in their
Man.
respective marriages, and just seeing the whole family and the camaraderie and just the beauty of what that looks like and the
Yeah.
possibilities. It makes you, for those of us who may be on the shorter end in terms of the years, like, I mean, I'll be 20 years next year,
Okay.
but
Congratulations.
that's a drop in the bucket compared to 50, you know, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
man, 50,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it's like, wow, so
yeah,
it lets you know that there are still some marriages that the husband and wife are sticking together, pushing through, and yes, it was worthy of the type of celebration that you all put together for your parents, and
oh yeah,
so I know that had to be an exciting thing to see, because again, unfortunately, a lot of us don't have that luxury of being able to say, one, that our
yeah,
parents got married,
yeah,
second, that they stayed married that long, and then for some of us, our parents are just simply not here anymore. So the
yeah,
fact that you're even just to celebrate that they are
yeah. Oh
still
man,
here,
man,
and enjoying them and experiencing them, is a blessing in itself. So that's
man,
awesome, man.
man, I am so glad you said that, brother. Man, because it was another conversation I was having with my brother. Like, man, 50 years is it is that part what you just said, sticking through the tough times, the good and the bad. But another part of 50 years is just being there. Everybody just
Hmm.
like physically don't live that long to make it to
Right.
being married 50 years, right? My mom, she one of her best friends, man, one of her best friends right down the street from where we grew up. She had passed, like maybe I want to say maybe a year before their 50th, right?
Hmm.
And and her husband had passed like 10, 15 years before that. And her, I mean, that those two and my parents were like, they were like this. They were everywhere. They were doing all kind of stuff. Because I remember when his name was Hollis. I remember when Hollis passed away. It was real tragic the way it happened. He worked, a lot of people down there working in Southeast Texas, working the logging industry.
Hmm.
Um, he had a logging accident with his truck, and it killed him, right? And I remember that day. I remember how tough that was. And then fast forward, and then we filled in family wise, filled in that gap as much as we could possibly could with their family as well, because they had a strong support system too. But and then she passed right like a year before it. So man, that's just it's a blessing that they stay together, but it's also a blessing that God allows them to live that long.
Hmm.
And that's yes, man, you saying something there, boy. A lot of people don't. When you talk about 50 years, everybody's celebrating it, and it's up and rightfully so, staying together through the tough and the good and bad times. But man, just being able to survive that long um,
Right.
is a blessing, man.
And that's powerful. And I truly believe that when God blesses people to do just that, not only in marriage, but just in life longevity in general, it's to be, I think, in its own way, it's to be a blessing to others, whether it's to you
Yeah.
as children of the parents, to just see this, to just
Yep.
experience it, to just be able to take in all of the wisdom, all of the love, all of anything that you can tap into what they've done together as a married couple and just life in general. You now have an opportunity to glean from that, to pour into yourself, to pour into
Yep.
other people, and pass that along. Again, just the value of your church your home church being the way that it is, all of those people being able to pour in all
Yes.
of those, all that history, all those memories,
Yes.
all of that
Yes.
wisdom. I mean, that's a powerful community. That again,
Yes.
everybody does not have the luxury. Even again, churches to this day, how many churches
Mhm.
make it to 100 years? How many churches make it to 10 years?
Oh
You
yeah.
know, so just
Yes.
even to that element of it that we take lightly on the outset, but then as you get older and you start paying attention to the details of things that happen over the course of our lives, and we're like, man, that's kind of a big deal,
Yeah.
that we kind of take
Yes.
for
Oh
granted
yes.
as just being,
Yes.
oh yeah, it's just a thing. No, it's not just a thing. This is not normal anymore. So when you see things like this,
Yeah.
when you experience things like this, you want to
Yeah.
celebrate it. You want to acknowledge for what it is, and anything that you can draw from it that's going to be a
Yeah.
benefit to you and others. You want to take full advantage of that if you have the opportunity, because that's truly a
Oh
blessed
yes.
moment to
Yes.
be a part of. So that's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
man.
That's
I
wonderful.
I am I was raised by a community. I was raised
Hmm.
by a village. So if through the interactions that anybody have with me, if you like the time that you spent with me, if I say something that can encourage you, whatever, that's the product of a person being raised by a village,
Right.
and hopefully, people would get something from that and say, hey, you know what? Hey, let's do what we can to make sure that we're pouring into these young folks and creating a village for them. That's what I try to do.
Hmm.
And I just really hope that other people, and I know people are, I know that happens. But you and I both agree. We would love for it to happen more
Right.
than
We
what
could
it is.
always use more of it. Yeah,
Yeah, we can
absolutely.
always use more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like we got too much. We need more of that. So
Ain't no
absolutely,
calm
man.
down the village. No, we need to get the village up.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that, man. Love it. So again, as we're kind of walking through your journey, obviously you got off to a good running start. Community, lots of love, close knit family,
Yeah.
things of that nature. Um, one of the things about life, as we've been talking about here, you live long enough, there will come a time where you
Mm.
begin to experience various challenges, adversities, and some in particular will stick out a little bit more than others, even to the point where you start questioning, how am I going to get through this? Even like in your scenario where you had this big, strong community and parents has been, always there and pouring in the love. We sometimes just get hit with stuff that it hits
Mhm.
different. The
Yeah.
weight is a little bit heavier than normal. So my question to you is, tell us about a time when you found yourself in such a situation where you were like, I was doubting. I didn't know how I was going to get through this. I've gotten through a whole lot, but when this hit, this was different. This was much more stressful, much more burdensome. I didn't know I was going to make it. We know, obviously, you're here today, so we know you did. But
Hmm.
take us back to what that situation was like for you. Kind of walk us through that journey and what it ultimately required of you to have that breakthrough, overcoming moment to to
Oh yeah.
to
Oh
see the
yeah.
light out of that situation.
Oh yeah. For me, not wondering if I'm going to make it through, I I can't honestly say that I've I've felt that because of my faith. And
Hmm.
not to say I'm not. Please don't take this as someone who feels like they don't. I'm not about to make it through. Like they don't have faith. No, I am not even halfway trying to say that. This is more just so of just speaking of how the Lord has touched my life, right?
Hmm.
Because now that doesn't mean I haven't had like hard hitters, things that make me like what in the and just yes, Lord knows I've had that, but thankfully being immersed in knowing that God is the answer, right? And that and jumping into God's word is an answer. That has been something that even when I act up and not do what I'm supposed to do, and even when tragedy hits, that has been something that's always kept me grounded. One, and so I wasn't even going to talk about this, but this was one situation. I'm in high school, and didn't catch the bus or missed the bus. So one of my neighbors, she was on her way to school. So I got in caught a ride with her to school. So we're heading on our way to school. Man, next thing I know, man, all heck broke loose, right? It wound up being a 30-car pileup. How do you get a 30-car pileup in little old Silsbee, Texas? I don't I do not know. But that pileup, man, we were towards not the end, but we were towards the end of that pileup. And it was a horrible the car that we was in was in a horrible accident. And the driver, her name was Nina. Actually, I'll after I get off with you, I'm going to connect with her because she does a lot of women empowerment things. I mean, she's a strong speaker and a strong woman and a strong woman of faith. And I really think you guys should link up. But anyway, we're on our way to school. This wreck happens, and Nina, that's her nickname. Nina, she's driving. She had her seatbelt on, and she winded up hitting the windshield and steering wheel and just all kind of stuff. It was so bad that she was out of school for about 7 to 8 months. That's how bad it was, right? I'm sitting over there next to her. I ain't got my seatbelt on. I barely got a cut lip, right? And when I look over at Nina and I see what has happened to her, the first thing I did, man, the first thing her dad came and told me about this. I forgot about it, but I saw her dad like 20 years later. He said, man, my daughter, she said when you guys got in that wreck, my daughter said, man, the only thing that I remember, I don't remember much, but I remember Dameon praying.
Wow.
I was praying. And not only was I praying, man, I got out the car, went around to her side, like, got her and tried to open up the door. And once I saw how bad it was, man, I just fell to my knees and I just started praying the whole time. Prayed till somebody got there, right? And we weren't just the only people. It was other people that had, hard, serious injuries as well, right? Remember, it's like a 30-car pileup, and you're in the middle of Silsbee, which is out in the boondocks. You know what I'm saying? You don't have, so it's not like you're going to get a bunch of ambulances. They're bringing ambulances from the nearest towns and the nearest cities to help people out. But until somebody got to her, I was praying the whole time. And, that whole situation, when I sit back and I think about that, I was like, man, that was a tough time. But at that point, I never had a, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I had a, pray time. Let's get on it. And that's what we doing. That's what because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know who coming. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Whatever it is, what we doing, we praying right now. This is what we doing. So, and that's why I say when you asked me that question, there were plenty of times in my life where it was like some serious stuff. But my default has always been, okay, well, hey, it's time to pray then. That's my signal. Hey, it's time to pray now. So, that's kind of how I've really handled a lot of situations, crazy situations or horrible, terrible situations, or situations that, maybe I guess is a scenario like, okay, how is this going to happen? How are we going to make it through? No, man, when I see it happen, I'm not really worried about how we're going to make it through. I know that right now it's time to pray. So, yep.
I love that, man. And I mean, this is very powerful what you just said, because I mean, I've asked this question numerous times to my guests that have come on the show, but I've never had anybody take it from this perspective. It's like, but I think it's very important because it's actually the mindset and the mode that we all need to be in when we're faced with challenging and difficult times. It's in our human condition to go into panic, to go into freak out mode, to go into to worry and stress and anxiety mode. But you're saying, hey, yeah, I've been through some challenging stuff. I could probably run off stories just like everybody else has on the show
Oh yeah.
about,
Yes.
I remember this time and I remember that
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah,
the
man.
thing that kept you from getting to that, I'm stuck, there's no way I can get through this. The doubt, for you not to get to that point, as you stated, my default mode was to automatically go to prayer. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that's absolutely powerful, and it's a necessity that I think we all as believers that we need to that needs to be our default mode. That before we go into
Yeah.
panic mode, go to prayer mode, and
Yeah.
that'll kind of defer all of that stuff. And again, and I've said this before, on many occasions. As a human being, you have a right to feel
Oh
hurt, pain,
yeah.
sadness,
Yes.
frustration, anger.
Yeah.
We're not saying don't have your feelings, that it's not
Yes.
okay. Again,
Yes.
it's about not getting stuck in that
Yes.
moment. Don't allow yourself to get stuck in that moment. And the sooner you can respond to not getting stuck, the better. You in that accident, you weren't thinking about how we're going to make it through this accident. You weren't thinking about how is this young lady going to get out the car, if she's going to live, whatever. All I know is I need to pray right now. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yes.
worry about how it happens. I'm just going to know that God's going to work it out however way he sees fit, that it's going to get worked out. I
Yeah.
don't need to know the details. And that's one of those things that oftentimes blocks us or delays even our blessing opportunities, because God presents something to us. He's saying, I got something for you.
Yeah.
But because we don't know all the details, because God is not going to sit there and give you the blow by blow. He's going to say, look, I got something for you and I need you to go do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Well, what about this? Well, what about, I need you to do X,
Yeah.
Y, Z.
Yeah.
And if you're concerned about it, if you're pressed about it, then you just need to pray on that. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need you to do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
I'm not getting ready to sit here. It's kind of like old school parent, because I said so. I'm not getting ready to
Yeah.
go through trying to convince you that this is what to do. And especially if it's coming from God,
Yeah,
last
man.
time
Yes.
you checked, his record is undefeated. So if he's
Yes.
telling you to
Yes.
do a thing, pray, walk, jump, hop, whatever it is, you can pretty much take that to the bank. It's
Yeah.
nothing. But again, saying that and doing it is two different things. And so to
Oh
know
yeah.
that, you were able to just turn that on. But again, it goes back to our conversation starting in the beginning when we spoke about the community and why that's
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
a significant and valuable thing. You wouldn't have
Yeah.
had that response without that community influence, without that upbringing,
Oh yeah.
without that understanding that this is what you do when faced with
Hmm.
challenging moments.
Yeah.
If you don't have that community, if you don't have that pouring into you, you now have that accident and you panic. You now have that
Yeah.
accident and you freak out. You now
Yeah.
have that accident and you go into all other places and modes that you don't need to be in right now.
Yeah.
We in this small town, 30-car pileup. As you said, any small town like yours, when it has a tragedy like that, as you stated, it's the norm that police, ambulance, and any other emergency assistance has
They
to
can make it.
come from neighboring counties or
Yep.
cities, and depending upon how close those neighboring places are, just the travel time alone could be the difference between life and death for some people.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and so, for you to be put in that position, and I don't think it was by accident that you were in that accident. It was
Oh
an
yeah. No,
opportunity
it
for
was.
you to experience who God is, his power, his authority, his love. That was a moment for you to be reaffirmed, to be reassured, to be confirmed that, hey, I'm the real deal, that all of this church that you've been growing up in
Mm.
and all of this community
Mm.
that you've been around, this is not just something that you just been doing. I'm the real deal. And he imparted that into you early, in your
Yeah.
younger years, that this is who I am and this is what I do
Oh
in
yeah.
challenging times. So if I can do it here, in this 30 car pileup, I can do it in all other future situations of challenges that you're going to have. And you've held on to that
Oh
all
yeah,
the
man.
way through. All the
Yeah.
way through, you've held on to that, you
You know,
know.
the young folks had this thing. They say 10 toes down. You
There you go.
know?
Right,
Man,
right.
look, man, when it comes to what the power of Christ and what I know God can do, man, I'm 10 toes on that, man. Now, and when I say that, man, and I don't want to, I want to sit up here and act like I'm some kind of holier than now. Everyone should be like how I think they should be. No, it's nothing like that, man. It's just that, um, it's just that I also have times and I'm because I'm human. There are going to be times where I have where I fall short of what God wants me to be or what Christ has for my life. And there are times where I don't say what I'm supposed to say or don't do what I'm supposed to do or the opposite. So, going through life, we have these times and these times where we are not our best selves, and but I just know that even when I am not the best me, I can still go to that default, and that default is going to God in prayer and recognizing that his will is going to get done whether I like it or not. I mean, if it turn out like I want, I mean, if it turned out like I thought it was going to turn out, great. If it don't, great. But the reality of being able to accept God's will, even when you may not like it, just going back to that default for me, so not that I'm not trying to, I'm not perfect. I am a flawed human being. You know what I'm saying? It's just that I just know the power of Christ, and I'm thankful that I grew up in an environment where it wasn't a question about that. There wasn't even, like even when I hear the term, it took me a while to get around the term believer, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here's why. Because for me, Christ, God is so present in your life. When I hear the word believe, it's kind of like, like you and I are talking in this conversation. Do I believe we talking in this conversation? No, we're actually talking, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, it's I don't believe I'm talking to Joseph. I don't believe that we on this call. I don't we are on this call. I am talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my relationship with Christ has been like that. It's not and nothing wrong with believers. Lord, please, all the believers, I love it. I love the word believers. It's just I just remember young Damon growing up, it was just, it just threw me off when they said believe. It was like believer. What you mean, like you believe? No, man, ain't no maybe. Believe kind of seemed like maybe. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no maybe here, man. Ain't
Mm-hmm.
no man, no,
And I
man, ain't
love
no
that.
maybe.
I
No
love where
sir.
you're going with that. Like you said, you're not trying to knock, as believers, when we say, I'm a
Yeah,
believer,
yeah,
or I believe in God, or I believe in this, or I believe in that. You're saying don't just be satisfied with being a believer.
yeah,
Actually, I know. Like, say
yeah.
it.
I know.
Like
Yes.
what? Kind of like when we say, say it with your chest. I know. I don't have any doubt. you know,
Stay with you. I like that. Stay
don't
with
don't
you.
don't do because sometimes because what you're saying is actually true. Like, sometimes when people say I believe something, they really mean I think it is, which
Yeah,
means that you're kind of I mostly do, but there's a part of me that doesn't. And you're saying no. When it comes to Christ, you don't want to be in the I'm for the most part I do.
yeah,
Pretty much. You're
mm,
saying no. Take the approach that if we're talking about Christ, then you don't have
yeah,
to even tote the line as far as what you might think or what
yeah,
may be. You can say with absolute no uncertainty whatsoever,
yeah.
he is who he is. He does what he
He
does,
does. Yep.
and I receive it. I accept it.
whether I like
No
it or not.
questions asked. It's just cut and dry.
Yeah,
Straight no chaser. It's
yeah,
what it is.
it is what it is.
So I,
Yep.
I I love the fact that you're just basically trying to emphasize. You're trying to say, let's put that exclamation part mark on it. Don't
Yeah,
just be
yeah,
okay with, well, that sounds right. Don't
yeah, yeah,
it is right. It don't
yeah,
sound right.
yes,
It is
yes,
right. It
yes,
sounds like it could be. It is so. So
yeah,
I love the emphasis that you're putting into that, and I think that's just a mindset that we have to, even as those of us who are quote unquote believers,
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
need to do a better job of. No, do you
Yes.
really for real own this? Would you really? Are you really? Because I'm thinking about, like, yesterday. I was, and you're familiar with this. We have our Iron Man Bible study, with
Yeah,
Pastor,
yeah,
and so we had a session last night, and he was speaking. We were speaking a little bit in Revelations, and we were talking about, what those last days would look like when there would be the Antichrist, and the expectation of everybody, you know, um, believing and worshiping that Antichrist, and that for those who are still around had refused to do so, that they will
yeah,
be killed for not accepting that. And he spoke about, just imagine you refusing to accept that, and you being beheaded and your body being laid in the street or whatever. We talk about, do you believe? Do you believe to the point, or are you willing to confess it to the point to where you would give your life for that? If you
yeah,
knew you would die for standing on that truth,
yeah,
would you still say the same thing, or would you be wavering? And
yeah,
it really made you think, like, we say
yeah,
it all, oh yeah, I'm a soldier for the Lord and all that. What?
yeah,
Until you might
yes,
be denied life, or till you
yeah,
might be denied to buy and sell because you don't have a mark. Would you really go all in? And so
yeah,
what you're basically saying, again, in terms of just our mindset and our hearts for God, if you say that you believe, then be all in with it. Don't, when you speak about him, let nobody that hears you speak about them think that, well, he sounds like
mhm,
he feels that way. They need to know,
yeah,
no, when Dameon says, yeah, that he's all God, he for real. He's not just saying
yeah,
because
yeah,
it
yeah,
sounds good. He's not just
yeah.
saying it because it gains him, cool points with people. He's
Jesus,
saying it
cool
because he
point.
truly he truly owns that. He acknowledges that it is truth, that it is 100%
Yeah,
absolute, purely, without a doubt, correct. So again, that's why I'm hanging on this, because you brought that up, and we need to be reminded of that.
yeah,
And again, we're still human, we're not perfect, but it's just
yeah.
something that
We
we
are.
need to
Yes, yes,
we definitely need to strive to be more and more committed
yes,
to that relationship with God. It's not to be taken lightly. It's not to be treated as a casual thing that we do.
yeah.
No, we need to be all in, for real, for real. So
Yeah,
I
and I
love
and I
that you.
and also I don't want anyone who's listening to this to feel in some way somehow that they don't measure up or something, because I saw this thing with this dude Damon talking about he 10 toes down, whatever. So I'm not, I don't know, enough or something. No, that's I really want people to really understand that uh, Christ meets you where you are, right?
Mhm.
It don't, like you could be, ain't nothing, and that's one of the reasons why. Even, and I'm glad that you received it, because sometimes I'm hesitant of saying that, because I don't want people to start thinking that he want them as a holy roller cat. Whatever, I'm gonna tune him out, because he one of them dudes that grabs a Bible and hit everybody upside the head with it. No, 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 man. It's none of that. None of that. Wherever you are, there's nothing wrong with the word believer. You know what I'm saying? The word believer, and the concept behind it is amazing, and I want as many people as possible to be believers. It's just like I just wanted someone, just in case someone was feeling as though I need to be on a certain level to look into what Christ can do for my life. What is this Jesus thing about? Or I'm doing stuff, but maybe I should do more, all that kind of stuff. I just want it to be said that, man, wherever you are is good. I mean, it's a
Right.
good place to start. right? And there's no such thing as, I mean, it's not, all you need to do is believe, right? And that's what we want people to be able, that's the main thing I want people to, you may not do it like Damon do it, right? But as long as you believe, and as long as you are moving towards increasing that belief
Mm-hmm.
and working on that belief, you good.
That's
You
it,
good.
right? What you just said. That's it, right there.
You
The
good.
believing is the first step.
Yeah. That's the
Think of
first
it. Think
step.
of it like that.
Yeah.
This is my foundational basis that
Even
I
if you
first
kind of believe,
believe.
even if you kind of believe a little
Let me
bit.
start. I believe. Let me start from there, and then, but
Yeah.
don't. It's one of those things where we're saying, don't just get comfortable in just believing.
Yes.
Build on that. Build on that
Yep.
relationship. Build on that knowledge of who God is, His
You can
Word.
do it.
Build on that prayer life. That prayer life in the beginning may start off with a couple of minutes,
Yep.
once a day. As it progresses, you may get to a point where you can do what Dameon talked about he did in high school. But trust
Yeah.
and believe, there's many a man and woman who pray even harder than that.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
we just aspire to, be
Yes.
better prayers. We aspire to be
Yes.
more in
Yes.
our word. We aspire to strengthen that relationship. It's all about never allowing yourself to get to a point where you're just comfortable. Oh, I'm comfortable where I'm at with God right now. I did this much and I'm just comfortable right here. Don't get
Yep.
comfortable. Don't
Yeah.
settle, because it's
Yep.
so much more. It's more than we'll ever in our lifetime be able to fully grasp or what
Grasp.
have you.
Yeah.
So the goal is just get the maximum, the most out of it while we're here, so that when that time comes on the other side, when we
Yep.
have it forever, you know,
Yes.
we'll have those pleasures, those benefits and whatnot, but don't just get comfortable with just, it's like giving your life to Christ. It's like some people view getting saved as, I've reached the finish line. Today I got saved. All right, well, I'm in. And I don't have
That's
to do
good
nothing
though.
else.
It's
That's
good you're
good.
there. It's
It's
good
good
you're
that you're
there.
there.
Yes.
But
Yes. It's good you're there.
you now you at it. Now you gotta. There's still more levels to it. You don't just
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
saved and
Yes.
then
Yeah.
you just. So now that I'm saved, I'm just gonna sit here in the pews and, just give me a good word in, some songs every week, and then I'll just go on and do my life for however long that.
Yeah.
No, that's not the finish line. It's the starting point.
Yes. Yes.
And you just, again, you build,
You be,
you build,
or
and
even in a tragic situation, I call it a tragic situation, where a person becomes saved and they feel like, okay, now I'm saved, ain't nothing else going, nothing else bad is going to happen to me, right? Or it's smooth sailing for the rest of my life because I'm saved now. I put on my little saved shoes, my little saved suit coat. And I do the little save walk. I'm good, and nothing bad is going to ever happen to me. I'm not going to have any challenges. I'm not going to have anything that I have to really overcome. And then, soon as something happens, man, where God at? We're man. It's like I say, it's good that you start. That's a great place to start, and the heavens rejoice when you start. So
mm-hmm,
that's good. That's good. I don't never want to disparage that.
right.
But like you said, though, that's a start. And my encouragement is that once people start, they continue.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, man, you've already kind of tapped into this a little bit. Because one of the things I wanted to ask you, of course, was when you find yourself in challenging situations, no matter what, big or small, what is the thing that you like to do that kind of helps you process it? And I know, of course, one of the things that we've been talking about quite a bit is, that default to prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
you know, um, but one of the things, and I'm kind of put a little spin on it. I know sometimes, for those of us who have that default button of prayer being one of the things that we do, there are some people who pray, but they don't know how to pray and then just allow God to, one, speak to them to tell them what part that they need to do, and two, just kind of waiting on God's timing. So with that said, I guess my question for you, being somebody who's been used to defaulting to prayer, what would you say has been your recipe for, I guess, making sure that when you do pray and you release that to God, how do you make sure that you also default to not stressing in the meantime while you're waiting for God to not so much to fix it, because it's not God's role to just always fix something just because we pray about it. because there's going to be many times when we pray on something that there's some work that we're going to need to do in order for the prayer to be
Yeah.
fulfilled.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
question to you, as a praying man, what do you do to make sure that you don't, run the risk of, I guess, falling victim to, kind of clock watching on God? Like, okay, God, I prayed this to you like a week ago.
Come on now, where it's at?
Where it's at? I
Where that
told you
blessing at?
I'm in
Where
a
that blessing
rush.
at?
What do you do, and what would be your, your advisement to people who maybe struggle, that they're good at praying about it, but they're not good at waiting on God's timing to come through, as well as waiting on, being on watch for God's instruction to what we might need to do to help fulfill that, to facilitate that prayer. What would you say to that?
For me, and I can only speak for myself, recognizing that when I pray, I may not like the answer to the prayer. You see, and that's every prayer. I mean, and maybe I've been conditioned that way. Just being, maybe it's a personality trait, man. I don't know. I just know that I know that God can answer the prayer immediately if He wants. He can wait 10 years if He wants. He can wait however He wants to answer it, if He wants to answer it. Right? That's another thing too. Yes, God answers prayers, but He answers prayers within His will. So if I'm praying for something that's outside of God's will, I'm probably not. There's a excellent chance that ain't going through, right? But even if it is in His will, it may not happen when I want it or how I want it to happen. So for me, when I pray, I just do my best to leave it in God's hands and let him be God. I mean, not like He need me to let Him be God or nothing like that, but let God be God, right? Because what winds up happening, we pray. Sometimes people pray, but then, like you say, I got this clock, so I got to do this, and I got to do that, I got to do this. There are some things, and there is some work that you may have to do, but just realize that this work that you're doing, or these things that you're doing, are things that you're doing to help get you there, to help get you to that answer that you're trying to get to. That answer, and even with all your work, it still may not show up when you want to. But just when I pray, I let it go, do my best to let it go. And I recognize that when I ask for God to intervene, I ask for God to help, it may not go like I want it to go. But I'm cool with that, because I know that even though it doesn't go the way that I want it to go, it's the way that He wants it to go. And the way that He wants it to go is 100 times better than whatever I think it should be. Right. So, I mean, even when I talk to young people, one of the things I always try to stress to them is like, I promise you, what God has planned for you is bigger, better, and bolder than anything you can think of. What God has planned for you, not you. Like, you may think of whatever it is that you're thinking of, but man, compared to what God has planned what God has planned for you, is bigger, better, and bolder than what you got planned for yourself. I promise you it is. And one of the issues that people run into, and I know I'm going off a little bit, but one of the issues that people run into is that when I pray and when I ask for something, I have in my mind what I want, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You're human. But what if God, you want this, but God has this, right? You shooting here. Man,
Right.
God got you, man, He got this for you. But nah, man, this, because this is the highest this is the highest that your mind can take you, right? Naturally. Well, when you throw in some supernatural, my grandma used to call it supernatural sauce. Once you throw in that supernatural sauce and he sprinkle some of that on there, man, it's gonna go somewhere where where you ain't, and it may not, and it won't look like you think it's going to look. It won't be like you think it's going to be, right? Sometimes on your way to do a thing, you're more blessed by the journey than by the end result. You see
So
what I'm
true.
saying? So it's just,
Yeah.
I just encourage people, yeah, if I could give some advice to people, when you pray, just let God be God, man, and let him do his thing and realize that it may not turn out how you like, but it will turn out the best for you if you're
Hmm.
sincere with your prayer and you're sincere with where you're asking God to take you. Right.
I love that. I totally agree. I mean, and again, it's not something that it's not a space and place that I've automatically been in all my life. It's taken some bump in my head along the way
Mm-hmm.
with that. But the older I get and the more, I try to build on that relationship with God. I understand, like you said, when I pray, I got to learn to just let that prayer, if I'm giving it to God, I got to learn to let him be God all by himself. I can't
Yeah.
pray to him. I can't say I trust him to follow through in a
Yes,
prayer,
there you
and then I'm
yeah.
going to tell him how to answer my prayer.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
counterproductive.
Like you
I
gonna give
can't.
God instructions on how
Right.
to help. Man, come
Right.
on, man.
He's God. He
What
created
is
me.
that?
So who am I to tell him how he's supposed to,
Yeah.
answer my prayer? I bring my prayer to him. We have to recognize that God has infinite wisdom.
Yep.
So he's going to be able to instantaneously determine whether or not the prayer that we've put forth is, as you stated earlier, is within his will. It's the right thing. And one of the things that I've shared with people before is I've gotten to the point in my life now that I celebrate God's no's just as hard, if not more, than I
Mm.
celebrate his yeses,
Yes,
because I
sir.
know
Yes,
he's
sir.
either just saved me from a pitfall, a
Yes,
landmine that I didn't
sir.
see coming, or to what you spoke to, he kept me from settling for this when I really should have been shooting for this. He said
Yes.
no to me, not because I didn't have a good idea, but he was like, Joe, you thinking
Yes.
too small. You
Yes.
thinking too small on that one. So I'm gonna say no to
Mhm.
that because you ain't thinking big enough. I'm God. You forgot. I,
Yeah.
I need you to go big or go home. You need to go up here. This right here, this no, I'm not no to this. You settling. You just
Yeah. You
no.
tripping.
You tripping. Go here. Go high. You
Yeah.
know, and you gotta appreciate that when you think about it from that perspective. It's like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good looking out, God, because
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
I was
I don't know
trying
where
to.
my head was at.
I
Man,
don't know what I was thinking. I was trying to go. You go Hyundai, and you was trying to Rolls Royce me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
thinking a
Yeah.
shack, and you was thinking a mansion. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
I'm a big God. I'm not a little God. So come
Yes.
big with me. And when you don't, just in case you forget, just in case you underestimate, I will modify and do whatever
Yeah.
necessary to elevate that thing. So
Yes.
we're on the
Yes.
same plane here in terms of what you need to be shooting for. So
Yes.
all of those things are important. And like I said, letting God work that thing out in his infinite wisdom, the way he wants it to, in
Mm-hmm.
his timing. His timing is not our timing. We
Yep.
just have to be okay with that. And
Yeah.
then just trust that God knows best, and however he decides to move on that, and whenever he decides to move on what I've presented in prayer, I'm good either way. The point is that
Mm-hmm.
I gave it to him in prayer, and I'm not sitting here stressing and worrying and clock watching. And we also, one of the things that we forget to do when we pray is we also have to take the moment to make sure that we're keeping our ears open and our hearts open to what God has to say to us. Because as I shared a little bit a moment ago, there's sometimes in order for a prayer to be fulfilled, it's going to require us to do some things on
Yes.
our
Yes.
end in order for that prayer to, you say, okay,
Yes.
you say you praying for this thing to happen. Okay, I can do
Yeah.
that for you, but you're going to have to do some stuff for me. There's some
Yeah.
stuff that you're going to have to clean up. There's some stuff that there's some work that
Yes.
you're going to have to do if you want to get this.
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. I promise you I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
But you need to do some stuff. But I won't know what that is if I'm not taking the time to listen for God's voice, to
Oh
talk to
yeah.
me. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be some, thing that you might see in the movies, this thunderous voice in the air or whatever. God has his way of communicating with all of us. How he talks to
Yeah.
you, how he talks to me may be totally different. But we know if you're truly in that building that relationship with God, you're gonna know whether it's words that are spoken to you, whether it's a vision that you have, whether it's something you see,
Mm-hmm.
God has a way of connecting with us that we know it's him. That was a
Yeah.
God. That was a God
Yes.
call.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you for, now I know what to do. And then
It
I,
makes
I
its
need
way.
to,
It
yeah,
makes its way into your sphere somehow, some
yeah.
way, and
You'll know when you know.
no, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's good stuff, man. That's
One
good
thing
stuff.
I've noticed for me is that I've noticed um, when three different people tell me the same thing, maybe I should listen to it. I don't care what it is. You know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
in my lifetime, I've had experiences where, three different people who don't even know something, who don't even know each other, will tell me some of the same, something that's along the same lines. And, I'm like, okay, I need to listen to that. That could be God trying to stop me from screwing something up. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And,
Or guide me in the right direction. So yeah, man, I totally agree, man. I
yeah,
totally
God
agree.
will position just moments just like that. And
Yeah.
that's a perfect example when I talk about blessings in the streets. That's a perfect example of what a blessings in the street moment is like, where
Oh
people
yeah.
that are not that are totally unfamiliar with your situation, they may not even know you,
Yeah.
and they say something just in passing or something that they had no idea that this has been a pressing thing on your mind, and just a random 3 minute
Yes.
conversation, they say something and it hits you like, how did they
Yeah.
know? Or there's even been times, and I've even said this to pastor. There've been even been times when, and you've probably experienced this too, where you're being in church and you got all these people around you, but there's something that's spoken in that word, in that message on that day, that you're just like, is he talking to me?
Yeah.
It feels like that. I promise you, there have been a many a Sunday I had something on my mind, on my heart, that had been weighing heavy on me, and it was just a few words in the midst of the sermon, or a few words in the midst of praise and worship, that hit, and I
Mm-hmm.
instantly knew this was God speaking to me on that thing that I've been pressed about, and now I
Mm-hmm.
knew,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
That was the answer that I was seeking. He just came up with his own unique, God-like way to send that message to you.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's just how it is.
Hey, I got one for you, especially since we're talking about Pastor Rice. Maybe he listened to this, maybe he doesn't. But um I remember, I distinctively remember this, man. We were It was like maybe spring of 20 it was like maybe spring of 2019, maybe summer of 2019. It was like maybe a year before COVID and before the shutdown, stuff like that. And I remember Pastor was talking about, he was saying, and when I say y'all go look this up, you can go, because all the sermons is online. You can go look this up. He was saying, he's like, man, just something in my spirit just tell me that something is coming and it's going to be tough for us to deal with. But because his thing was just trying to tell people to hold on, right? Um, keep your faith and endure it, but he said, I don't know what it is. And I'm talking about, man, this is like a year, it's like a whole year before and the reason it stuck with me, because especially before my daughter went off to college, we were having we did Bible study on Wednesdays, just my daughter, I mean my daughter and my wife, we would do Bible study. And it just, when he said that, it just stuck with me for some reason, right? It just stuck with me. And I even brought it up in Bible study with my family. I was like, man, it just, and I just touched on it briefly, but for something, it just got in me, man. I was like, whoa, I don't know what it was, but I'd say, okay, I hear what he's saying. For some reason, I heard that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be, hey man, when a year later COVID hit, and and nobody, of course it was tough for everyone, right? But it was one of those things to where, you know, God has the ability to speak to you and prepare you for stuff
Mm-hmm.
way before it happens. And when COVID hit, I was like everybody else, like, what is going on? But I just remember him saying that a year prior to that.
I remember that sermon that you're speaking to. I
Yeah,
remember
because
that.
it stuck with me. It stuck with
Yeah,
me then, and I went on about my business and forgot about it. But then once that shutdown really started happening, I was like, wow. And I was like, man, so yeah, this is long, and we have to endure it, and we
absolutely.
got to keep our faith. And I know that was probably tough for some people to do that.
Oh
You know?
yeah, I mean this was I mean a moment like COVID was definitely a testing of faith moment.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
seeing people, healthy people,
yep,
dropping like flies, left and right, it hitting close to home, and job losses, and
yeah,
just all type of financial ruin that was happening to big and small companies, and just people's worlds just being flipped upside down. It's a generational moment in time that none of us saw coming, or felt like we would ever experience something like that. So yeah, definitely. But again, even in moments as drastic as that, having that relationship with God,
yep,
leaning into His comfort, His peace, His joy, allows us to be able to withstand and endure these type of moments, and
yes, most
trust when
definitely.
you have that relationship. Call it what you want to, but God shows favor
Yeah,
over His, and
yeah,
I can testify to my household. He showed us plenty of favor. I mean, to this
yes.
day, none of my family to this day has experienced COVID.
Wow.
When we've had freeze out situations with the weather and things like
Yep.
that, we've been blessed to where everybody's else lights and power is out, ours was on,
Not
and we
your-
were warm, and and all that good stuff. When you know being my wife and I, we work for federal government, so we've experienced things like government shutdowns and things like that, and
Ooh, man.
and
Yeah.
for us, with both people in the home working working in government, that's a double income hit, at the same
Yeah.
time. So
Ooh,
we so
man.
but again, God's favor,
Yep.
God's favor covers it all. And so,
Yep.
you know, there's so many stories I could tell you from childhood all the way through adulthood where the math wasn't mathing. The circumstances just didn't seem plausible that we were supposed to
Yeah.
survive this or make it through that. And I dare say, that I would charge it to luck, because it had nothing to do with luck. It had everything to
Oh,
do with
yeah.
God
Yeah.
being there for us, covering us, loving on us, showing us graces and mercies, to make it through some of the most challenging and difficult times in life. Some stories I've shared with people, some that people just only within our home know about.
Yeah.
So you and I both, I think, are safe in saying that when we speak to what we speak to about our journeys and our experiences and things of that nature, we're not telling you something that we heard.
You
We're
ain't lying
telling you
about
something
that.
that we
No,
know, that we
sir.
personally
No,
experienced,
sir.
and we are by far not the only ones who are. We
Yes.
can bring forth a many a person who can share similar stories.
Yep.
Um, you know, uh, that just speak to who God is, and what that relationship with Him is, why it's so significant, so important. So, again, my prayer is that anybody who has an opportunity to listen to our podcast today is gleaning from this, is getting that in, and is being a blessing to you, because it's been a blessing to us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and that's why we're taking the time out to just spend. Again, it's not about Bible whipping you over the head and
Oh, no.
pretending to be higher than mighty and perfect, and no, because we're not.
And it's
We're
out there.
not. And
It's out there.
yeah,
It
it's
is out
out
there.
there.
Yes,
But
it's
I'm
out
not.
there.
No, no, I
It's
promise
just
you.
not
I
here. It ain't
promise you,
here.
I'm not perfect. I promise you, Damien's not perfect. I promise you, we're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
We trying to be right, just like
Yes,
just like
sir.
any other
Yes,
person
sir.
trying to get right. Get right
Yes,
with God,
sir.
and live a life that is pleasing to Him. We all
Yep.
trying. We every
It's a
day,
struggle. It's
and
a
and
struggle.
from
And
time to
it,
time we fall flat on our faces, but we
yep.
but it's great to know that He's a God that's right there to extend that hand of picking us up and dusting us off and saying it's okay, it's cool. So,
Yeah,
so you
for
tripped up,
sure.
you're gonna be all right. I'm still here
Yeah,
for you. I haven't forgotten you. I haven't
I got you.
kicked you to the curb. I haven't forsaken you. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah,
Just to
I
have
created
somebody
the
in your life that's just like that for you, that's
yeah.
priceless.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, you look at. I can see guys saying something like, not to put words in his mouth, but I created the heavens and earth. I got you.
mhm,
So you know, you look up in the sky, you see those stars. All that's me. So whatever you got going on, I got you.
I
You
got you.
know, I
That's
got
that's
you.
that's
It's on you now. It's back on you. What you gonna do?
exactly just what
Yeah,
you said. It's on us. So he said, I got this part. Now what you gonna
yeah,
do?
yeah,
So
man.
absolutely, absolutely. So, well, Damien, if you had a chance, man, to speak to the younger version of yourself, I mean, knowing what you know now, being having gone through, highs and lows and everything in between that you've gone through, if you had a chance to talk to that younger version of yourself, or maybe somebody who was like the younger version of yourself that maybe didn't know what you know today, as far as, truly, truly understanding the power of prayer, truly, truly understanding the relationship with God, truly, truly understanding that, your challenges and your struggles doesn't mean that it's the end of the story. That there's
Mhm.
always an opportunity to come up out of that situation, whatever it is, and be a better version of yourself and be a blessing to others, and the like. What would be those words of encouragement that you would have with somebody that may be on the fence about that, or not quite sure how to navigate their way in such moments? What would you share with them as a source of encouragement?
As a source of encouragement, um, oh man, that's a tough
I
one.
know that's a loaded, heavy question, but
Yeah, it
just
is. It is loaded, but I mean, it's good. It's good. Um, One thing that I would tell the younger me or the younger generation, I guess what I tell them now, like when I do talk to them, it's gonna be tough. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you that you're not going to experience tough times. You're not going to experience unfairness. You're not going to experience things that just don't make no sense at all. And and there's going to be times where you've done your part. You did what you were supposed to do. You were the good steward. You were the good person. You were the good. You did everything you were supposed to do, and it still fall flat on your face, right? And it still fall apart. It still break up. The main thing that I would tell young people is that even though all of those things will happen, right? That's life. Ain't nothing you can do about that. Those are things that you really can't control. But one thing you can control is your relationship with Christ, right? You can control how much effort you put into learning more about what what Christ's plan is for your life. How much effort you put into it. Um, am I gonna read? Are you gonna actually like open up the Bible and read it? Or are you going to show up on Sunday and you good, right? I mean, showing up on Sunday is good. I'm not saying don't do that. You know what I'm saying? But in addition to that, get in your Bible, man. Read. That's something that I wish that I would have done earlier because through the first part of my life, I would say, especially before my 30s, man. I mean, Bible verses it was like Bible verses and stuff that I heard and stuff that I grew up in. Because remember, I grew up in church, strong family, strong Christian environment. So, I heard it all. But there was a difference when I really in earnest went and read the Bible for myself, right?
mm-hmm,
When you go in it for yourself, and now all these things that you have heard start weaving themselves together, and it not only shows you God's plan for the world, but Christ's plan for you. And all that is interwoven into just reading, right? And and I would just say in my experience, And if somebody said, well, the Bible is so big, where do I start? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can start wherever. You start at Genesis if you want to. I would encourage somebody, maybe somebody's looking at, reading, watching this podcast or listening to it. In the New Testament, the book of John, I I would say that's a great place to start, right? And that's just my personal opinion. And I feel like there's so much in the book of John um, that will give you a general, a good gist of Christ, who he is, and what's going on, right?
Hmm.
Just what's
Yeah.
going on, right? This is I go to church, I hear this stuff, I hear this Jesus stuff, I hear Holy Trinity, I hear all this stuff that I've been to church a few times. I heard this stuff, I just feel like John explains that, and it starts off explaining that, you know. Anyway, I just feel like that. I would encourage you if you're gonna, and the book is not even that long. The book is not even. I don't even remember how many how many chapters is in John. But I'm just saying, I really think that John would be a good starting point. So if anybody's listening to this or watching this and they say, "Hey, look, man, you know what? This month or even this year, I'm going to read one chapter in the Bible." John is a good one to start with, and it don't have to be John. You can pick whatever you want, but I would encourage. My vote would be John.
And again, I love what you're saying here on the back end because you're like saying the key word is start. Just start
Yes,
somewhere. If it's going to be in the
start
word,
somewhere.
start. Just pick somewhere and start with it. Nobody's trying to tell you got to consume the Bible overnight. It's just not that type of book,
No, it's not. It's not.
just even for the most
It's not.
scholarly of people,
It's not.
it's just not that type of book.
Yes,
So
it
you
is not the
start
type of book.
somewhere, you get into it, you read it to the best of your understanding, and what you
Yep.
don't know, you seek out that information from somebody who maybe is a little bit more versed in it to kind of help you
Yeah.
put, like you said, weave it all together and make sense of it all.
Hmm.
But start somewhere. If we're talking about trusting in God and you're not a praying person, start somewhere. Just start praying to Him.
Just start, man.
Whatever. Don't worry about it being a certain kind of politically correct type of formal
Yep.
way. Because the truth is God doesn't even want us to pray to Him like in this formal structure. Talk to me
Yeah.
like you're talking to your dad. Talk. Just
Yeah.
just speak
Yes.
in your own way, in your own voice, with your own heart. Just say what's
Yep.
on your mind, and let me take care of the rest from there. And the third part of that is just as you stated earlier, life happens. You know,
Yes, buddy. Whew.
believer, unbeliever,
Yep.
old, young, black, white, rich, poor. You're gonna
Yep.
go through some stuff,
Yep.
and it's not going to always be fair. It's not going to always
Nope.
feel good. It's not going to always be convenient. Don't get caught up in that. Everybody goes through stuff. Even if anytime you see them, they doesn't look like they're going through stuff. Trust and believe they're going through something,
Hmm.
something of some sort.
Yeah.
We all do. It's not that you don't go through challenging or difficult or pressing times. It's more about how do you respond when you do. What is your
Yep.
response to it? Not that is because again, storms. It's not a matter of if, but when. Everybody's going to have them.
Yeah.
Yours might not be mine, mine not may be yours, but we all gonna have them. But what do you do? How do you respond in those moments? Are
Oh
you
yeah.
waiting until those moments arrive to prepare yourself, or are you staying prepared in advance for such moments so that when they hit, to what you've been speaking to the whole conversation is that I stay prayed up. I stay in God's word. There are things that I make a part of my regular routine and practice so that when
Mhm.
those quote unquote challenging times hit, I'm able to more easily transition into my default mode versus, which is prayer, versus my default mode being panic and
Mhm.
worry. And I'm less likely to go there because of the preparation that I do in advance of the unannounced, unpredictable moment in time of whatever that storm is about to be for me today, tomorrow, next week,
Yep.
next month, or whatever.
They
So
call it life.
they call it life. They call it life. It's good
They
stuff,
call it
man.
life.
Good stuff. So before I let you go, I do want to take an opportunity, man, to to celebrate you, to love on you, man, to acknowledge you. So if you got anything that you got going on right now, projects, anything, any accolades, anything that's happened recently or about to come about that
Yeah.
you want to share with us, man, we would love to again to celebrate that, to acknowledge
All
it, to
right.
find out how people can get connected with you. If it's something we need to get connected with you on, please do
Yeah.
share. What's to look forward to, Mr. Dameon, that you got going on, man, that we all the people need to know about, man, that that they need to be checking you out. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
again, just
Yeah.
praying about it or loving on you about it. What is that, man, that you got going
Yeah,
on?
man. Well, well, first of all, man, I appreciate it. I love this conversation that we had. But yeah, man, as far as things that I have going on, earlier you asked me, tell me a little bit about myself, and I talked about me being a serial entrepreneur. Well, one of the newest projects that I have is a website where we help other people build websites for themselves. So the name of it is called New Site Go. That's NEWSITEGO.com. And if I could share my screen with you, we're going to see how this goes. And if everything messes up, it wasn't my fault. All right. So here is the website, New Site Go. I wanted to make sure that it was real affordable, so that people can, so that anybody could have get a website. I truly believe one of our mottos is, everybody deserves a website.
Hmm.
So we start the price out at $375, and we always say it's the easy way to get a website. And for those people who don't know whether or not they want to get a website, or should I get one, or they're kind of thinking of should I get a website or not, I have a downloadable PDF. It's called The 7 Deadly Sins When Building a Website. These are the things that you really need to know if you're trying to build a website. Before you start building a website, these are the things that you do not want to do. And if you're building a website, it could save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, just by going through this and listening to some of the stuff that I had. It's not that long, but it's just a little PDF. All you have to do is put your name, your email, and then just hit download the guide, and you'll have it. So you just kind of go through there, and it'll give you really good tips for if if I'm thinking about getting a website, you can get some really good insight into the things that you should do before you even get started uh, building your website. So 7 Deadly Sins When Building a New Website. So I encourage you guys to go check that out. For those people who are ready, like if you know that you're ready to get a website, we have an option for you guys as well. So you say, hey, I've gone through your website. I like what I see. I'm ready to get started. Then you just simply click the Get Started button, and it'll take you to this place where we're going to ask you a few questions. It's about maybe 5 or 6 questions, not a lot. And then once you make your initial down payment, it'll it'll send you to another page where you can schedule a call so that we can go over what you really want to do with your website and make sure that we're on the same page while we're building your website. And we even have some tips over here that, like once you get started, I mean, already once you sign up with us and you hit the Get Started button and you know that you're ready to go, and you get to this schedule page, after you schedule, these just a few more tips that we have to just kind of help you prepare for that call that we'll have about your website. So that's pretty much it, man. I just encourage people to, if you're looking for a website and you're in the market for one, or even if you really don't know if you want one, you say, hey, I think we should, or you may have a website and you want to redesign it. New Site Go is a great place for you to come and get a website done the easy way. So just go to
That's
newsitego.com. You can even Google it. It'll show up. So
that's
that's my
awesome, man.
shameless plug.
Hey, no, absolutely, man. And we celebrate you for the work that you're doing with that. Obviously, entrepreneurs, both brand new or, seasoned like yourself, understand the value of having a website. But we, again, like you said, we don't always know proper content, proper ways to structure it in such a way to draw people to actually come check it out. Because you can have an awesome and wonderful website, but if
Yep.
nobody knows about it or there's nothing out there that draws them to it, what
Yeah.
good is it? So
Yeah.
that's excellent work that you're doing. And matter of
People
fact, you
get
and I we might need to chop it up a little bit offline about that. But
375. You ready, brother?
so that's good, man. That's good
But
stuff. So
but one but
anybody,
one thing I will say, if people are thinking about getting a website, one big point is covered in their seven deadly sins, downloadable thing. One thing I really want people to just kind of think about when you get in the website, the number one thing that you really need to think about is, what do you want your website to do? Right?
mm-hmm.
Just that's what I'm saying. That stuff is good, man. It's packed with some good stuff, and everything in there ain't none of that stuff technical. We don't cover no technical stuff. It doesn't have anything to do with all the technical stuff that you hear about. Domains, SEO, man. This ain't none of that. No domains, no SEO, no none of that. This is just basic stuff that you need to know. So, and I always just try to preach this, man. Look, if you know that you want a website, the first thing you need to figure out is, what is the number one thing you want that website to do. So just think about that.
Awesome. Love that, man. And good work that you're doing. Just those tapping into those talents that we talked about at the very beginning, your creativity, your artistic nature, man, and you being a God-led brother. You can never go wrong with doing business with somebody who foundationally operates in principle, in accordance with how God would have you to do. So that way, in simple words, knowing you're dealing with a truly an honest business person,
Yes,
that has a
yes, sir.
service that you may need for your respective business. So I would definitely encourage you to check my man out. And, if this is something that would be a benefit to you. Again, also thank you, my brother, for being on the show today. Thank you to my listeners for
No
tuning
problem,
in.
man.
And
Thank
if
you for
you've
having me,
enjoyed,
man.
hey, absolutely, absolutely. And if you've enjoyed our content, our conversation today, what we're doing here at the podcast, please subscribe, please like, please share, please comment, tell others about it, because at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what we do. It's about sharing our journeys, empowering, encouraging, uplifting, inspiring. Again, just letting you know that that anything is possible in life for you to achieve and accomplish, but it begins with that relationship with Christ. It's a necessary thing. We were never meant or created to do life on our own. We have a God who loves us, who
Yep.
wants nothing but the best for us. And so we want to take full advantage of that. We want to leverage that relationship, so that not only that we can be blessed, but it also positions us to be a blessing to other people, because one of the main components of us even being on earth to begin with is not to just be one who consumes, but also but more importantly, to be one who serves in whatever way that God has intended for us to serve, with the respective gifts that he's placed in each and every one of us to do just that. So no matter what your challenges are, no matter what your difficulties are, it doesn't have to be the end of your story. It doesn't have to be, there's no way I can bounce back from this, come back from this. You absolutely can. Just quit trying to do it on your own. Quit just trying to do it on your own, because you don't have to. So with that said, thank you so much for tuning in here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast. Remember, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and where your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you again so much for tuning in. Until next time, God bless. Take care of yourselves. Keep fighting that good fight. Keep believing and understanding that we have a powerful and wonderful and awesome God who loves you. And all you have to do is lean into him, call upon him. He wants that relationship with you. I promise it'll be the best decision that you ever make in your life, guaranteed. So
Yep.
until next time, take care of yourselves. Look forward to seeing you at the next podcast show.
All right.